Hello and welcome to this video where I'm going to be discussing and analysing how we use audience feedback to improve our coursework, specifically our Sight and Sound magazine cover. The first step of collecting this feedback was deciding whether or not we wanted quantitative or qualitative feedback. Now, the difference between the two is that qualitative feedback is much more subjective, as you're allowing people to give their own opinions and you're not providing them with stipulated questions where they can only give at most maybe 4 or 5 different answers. And so as a result, it enabled you to get much more constructive and specific feedback from which you can work from and better improve your coursework, which is what we did. After deciding that we were going to do qualitative research, the next step was deciding on who we wanted to execute this research on. Now, our target audience for the film trailer and film poster was males between 20 and 35 years old, as that's the demographic we believe are going to be most interested in our film. However, with Sight and Sound, it's not used by film distributors to advertise their films or upcoming releases. Instead, it's a much more sophisticated and serious format, which focuses more on technical sides, behind the scenes, and just the film industry in general, as well as up and coming actors and sort of niche genres, and is really for people who have a very strong interest in film and not just people who go to the cinema once every few months. As a result, we thought it'd be best not to just ask the same people who are our target audience for the trailer and the poster for feedback, because we knew in reality they probably wouldn't know as many of the conventions of the Sight and Sound format that we have to conform to give us constructive feedback. With this in mind, we decided to ask people who we knew had a good understanding of the conventions of the Sight and Sound magazine format, and those who are fellow media students, as we knew that they had studied the Sight and Sound format almost as much as we had, and that they had a good understanding of what you need to conform to in terms of conventions to make an accurate recreation of a Sight and Sound magazine. And here we have the 8 responses. And when I asked them to give us feedback, I asked that they give 2 sets of comments, what went well, and even better if. And as you can see, that's exactly what they did. Now, the image we showed them was this one on the right, as this was our very first draft or not our very first draft, but our first serious draft of our magazine cover. And straight away, a common theme was that the titles, a lot of people like the titles, saying that it was original and that in contrast with the desaturated image in the background, the vibrant purple and the font in which it's written really stands out and pops and attracts the eyes of the readers, as well as being convergent with our other 2 texts, as the people who we showed our first draft of the magazine cover to had also seen our film poster and trailer, and so they recognised that this title belonged to both of those texts as well, and so they appreciated the convergence amongst all 3. Another praise point, I suppose you could say, that people gave us was the image itself. The use of a mid-shot is very typical with Sight and Sound, and so they were impressed and happy at the fact that we'd conformed to an archetypal convention. On the left is the draft we made following our feedback, and our primary concern was that a lot of the comments made with regards to even better if was that we missed out quite a few conventions of the Sight and Sound template, namely the date and issue that normally comes in the top right, which we've done, and the price tag, which I went online, found and then inserted, as well as the border As you can see, we now have a white border, which is typical of the Sight and Sound template. But the main improvement, I feel, was the title and BFI logo. As you can see, it's a huge improvement on the first draft. I managed to find a better quality image to start, and then I converted these into PNGs by removing the background more successfully. And you can see there's no loss of border or the glowing effect of the BFI logo, so I was very happy with that. As well as that, there's a pretty obvious change in that the image is completely different, and the girl in the first draft is now a boy, so that's noticeable. But we decided that, based off of the fact that the girl you see in the right never actually featured in the trailer or the poster, that we would make the magazine article about someone relevant to the film, and that's the main actor in it, as you can see. Once again, though, we've gone for the mid shot. As I mentioned earlier, it's an archetypal convention. However, we do not have it desaturated this time, as we were quite happy with the colour and the quality of the image like it was. Again, we stuck with the title, the font, as it was a big hit the first time. However, we further improved it by layering another identical title, however in font, and layered it on top so that it gives the 3D effect, making it stand out even more. We changed the theme of the interview as well, because it wouldn't be weird, but it wouldn't be as effective having a male actor talking about women in the industry. But we made it interesting and more serious by having it say "speak out" while he has his mouth covered, which connotes that what he's about to say is something that most in the industry wouldn't want shared. One of the other changes we made was in font. As you can see, it's a bit more kind of serious than what you would find, and we made the plus a bit smaller as well. However, we kept the tug at the base mostly the same, except we removed one of the films from the first draft, Daniela Vega and A Fantastic Woman, as we just felt like it was taking a bit too much space, and we like the sort of pyramid effect with two films on the top and three on the bottom, as that's more typical of the Sight and Sound template. So as you can see, there's a lot of differences we made and changes based off of the audience feedback, and overall we were delighted with how this second draft came out. But we then remembered about how important having a desaturated image is and how archetypal it is of a convention to Sight and Sound, and how many people made positive comments relating to that. And we also lose a bit of the effect of having the vibrant title without this contrast. And so we made a third draft with this in mind, and it was surprisingly difficult to do, in all honesty, because I had to desaturate the image, which wasn't very hard. But then I went and got a copy of the original image and changed the hue to make it purple, to match the same shade of purple as you see in the titles. But then I had to individually select and cut out each letter and then transfer it to the original image here and place it in the right location. But it was worth it in the end, because we not only have the desaturated convention that we've conformed to, but we also have the vibrant colour and the contrast, which, as mentioned by a few people, was a really good positive feature, as it stands out and is a good contrast. Overall, the qualitative feedback helped a great deal, as it pointed out what we were missing from the Sight and Sound template. And if you compare our original draft to the last draft, you can see it's come on leaps and bounds in just quality and sort of authenticity as well. So there you go. Thank you for watching.